In this episode of The Leap, I sit down with David Goodwin, founder of Liberty Behavioural Services. David's business is one of the fastest growing businesses in Australia with over 110 staff, but it's his personal story that truly sets him apart. David didn't just overcome adversity, he built a mission-driven company because of it. After experiencing the system firsthand and seeing how it failed people, he set out to do better. This is raw, honest, and incredibly powerful. And I think this episode will truly inspire you that you can do it too. Really look forward to you listening. Welcome to The Leap, a business journeys podcast where we dive deep into the journey of business owners to learn from their successes and failures. Our goal, it's a simple one, to help more businesses succeed. Okay. Well, we're live, so we're not live as discussed. But David, thank you so much for being on. And well, is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast.
What an honor!
I know.
What an honor. So, best way to start with me, I always say.
Yeah.
Right? But for context, obviously there'll be a bit of an intro, but I'd love to hear it from you. Can you explain to the listeners who you are, what your business does, and what it is?
Okay. So I'm Dave. I run Liberty Behavioural Services. Basically, what we do is we work in the NDIS with people who are at extreme risk of harm to themselves or others. So it's when people are doing behaviours that end up cutting their world down. So, for example, someone goes to a day program, throws a chair at somebody, they can't go to the day program anymore. That bit shuts off. They end up hitting some friends and they lose that friendship group. So basically we get involved when their quality of life starts diminishing and their world's contracting. And our job is to minimize the restrictive practices that are happening on them. So that's usually the first go-to impulse with people, is when people are at risk of harming somebody else, is to add restraint on them. Mm-hmm. To give them medication, to sedate them, to start locking doors if they're running away, that sort of thing. So we go in to reduce the restrictive practices, decrease the risk of them harming themselves or others, and we end up trying to grow that world again, so build their quality of life back.
Wow. And you've been operating for 6 years now?
Almost 6 years, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And you're up to over 110-ish staff?
Yeah. So we've got about 110 practitioners, and then there's about 15 support staff to help them. Yeah.
When did you realize that you have one of the fastest growing businesses?
I think
that's like non-tech startup. Someone else gave you money.
I think like about 2 years ago, it started getting a bit crazy. We were putting up adverts, and HR came to me and they were like, "We're getting 80 or 100 applicants per person that we're hiring." So there was that, and then it was also the referrals were coming in at like 80 or 100 a month, and it was, so we were almost in a race to keep up, but making sure we actually got really high quality people at the same time. Yep. NDIS is it's an interesting system because there's about 220,000 businesses operating in the NDIS. So there's every single person's competing to say, my service is better than that service, come here. But what actually it takes to really get some momentum is long-term relationships with people. So like building that trust and then actually giving them a really good product, and then they want to come back and experience it again for another participant or another year or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and it's interesting, right? Because it is built on trust and referrals. The more that I've gotten to understand your space, and you don't often see people that are a niche in one area within NDIS because of those reasons that it's built on referrals and trust.
Yep.
Be able to scale as quickly as you have as well.
Yeah. That's true. Thanks.
Yeah, that's all good. It's always interesting when I'm doing it's one of those spaces I actually don't know as well as most other industries, but it's a credit, right? Because it's super, super saturated. And it's like, how do you stand out? You know,
it's extremely competitive. The thing is that
has that been an advantage? Would you say that?
It's interesting because it's an advantage and a disadvantage. So it means that, normal things that you would do in business don't really work, such as marketing. The ROI on using slogans or Google ads or things like that is extremely low in the NDIS. The reason being is that people are so used to being offered, 100 different businesses a year for the same service. So usually they tune out the noise and ask, a friend or go to a family support group, or they ask their support coordinator, like, who have you used that you know is good in the industry? And that's what ends up getting you the referrals rather than marketing or being at every event or that sort of thing. It's
funny, and we'll touch on this later, but while we're here, like, I feel like these support coordinators are what everyone's chasing, right? They hold a lot of power in that. Like, so are they getting slammed by like everyone being like, when you want to speak to a support coordinator to build a relationship
Absolutely.
with them?
Absolutely. A lot of friends that I have in support coordination have turned off their LinkedIn, like shut it down just because, they log in and there's 40, 50 messages on there from different companies and they're all very generic. And it's like, I'm new in the field, I've got capacity. The thing that is different that we're trying to aim for is not necessarily we just have capacity, it's that we have the right capacity. So we just spent, for example, $500,000 over the last 12 months building this new tech that will analyze every part of an intake form and cross-match all of those parts against over 100 practitioners in our company. So it'll cross-match directly based on the specializations, the areas the therapist is happy to work with, the preferences of the participant, the location, all that sort of stuff. And as soon as the intake form's completed, it'll show you what our system says is the right person, what our system says would be a great backup person, and then the third person. And then effectively that not only eliminates wait lists completely while an agency sorts through all their people and works out who would be an okay fit, but it means that the person that they've got is most likely going to form a relationship with the participant. Because you can imagine if you get it wrong, imagine if you got it wrong 2 or 3 times and the participant's worn out, the family's worn out, and it's
especially in this
where you need like somebody guiding you and critically bringing it together and building your skills and your confidence and getting the situation.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I might jump back to the start, right? Because I think, I've been very fortunate. A lot of the guests that I speak to, like, we talk about, we share learnings and, like I had my father as a source of inspiration for me, and that's what made me want to get into business because he was in business and, I looked up to him. Mm-hmm. Your upbringing is different. You've been through some really hard shit.
Yeah.
Can you share with us like how your journey was a little bit different and what sort of shaped you early on?
Yeah, it kind of happened in 2 phases how I got here. So, my childhood was quite dark. So in kind of a briefer summary, there was a lot of violence and things that happened that ended up meaning that the person that I was testifying against broke into my house when I was about 8 years old, took teddy bears from my sisters and I while we were sleeping and hung them by a noose by the fan to tell us not to testify against him. So that actually meant that we ended up spending a lot of time in witness protection. So we spent time interstate in safe houses. At all times, we had to have like bodyguard alarms around us. So it was pretty intense. And then layered on top of that, there was some severe domestic violence going on at home. And by the age of 15, I became an orphan when my mum passed away. So I suppose in all that darkness, I kind of had to decide, well, what am I living for, essentially? What's driving me? What's holding me? Where's the light for me? And I ended up finding that in helping people. So I ended up building some orphanages in Cambodia, having some sponsor kids. I joined a public speaking club and I went around Australia, spoke to a few thousand people about the Make Poverty History campaign and raised a whole heap of money. So I realized early on that I wasn't going to be defined by these people or these traumatic experiences. I was going to be defined by what made me feel good. And what made me feel good was helping people. So that's probably phase one of how I got to have the moral compass that I did.
How do you make a conscious decision like that, at that age where all you've known is like survival?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what do you think it was in you that was like, you know what, no, I'm going to make the best of this situation?
I think that the reality of what was going on was so dark that once I tried playing in a different world, which was focusing on areas I could help other people, not necessarily my own life, it meant that I got to step out of the darkness for a moment or inspire people and talk about other people's disempowerment and other people's points where we could affect change in their lives and help them and liberate them. And it became something where it was like, I'm forming an identity here, but it's not necessarily based on my trauma. It's based on what we can do to impact the world and impact other people. And to be honest, it felt good. It felt like I was living, when I was getting to do those things, when I got to speak around the country, it felt like I was living a different life almost to what I was experiencing at home.
Yeah. And in terms of like careers, where did you start off working? Like what industry did you go into first?
My first industry was in disability. So it was with the Disability Justice Unit at Department of Human Services. And then I spent a bit of time in aged care as they were rolling out individualized funding, which is actually the same type of funding as NDIS. Basically, it means that instead of like agencies getting funded, people themselves get funded and they decide whether you get their money or not based on how much they like your service, whether you're actually meeting the need. They can sign up for 1 month, 12 months, whatever they want. So it means that it drives innovation, it drives better services, it holds you to account and gives them back the power, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then the jump from being employed, like, I mean, a lot of people that, listen are, employed, and the easiest route from being employed to self-employed is usually making that leap in becoming self-employed in that industry that you currently work in.
Yeah.
Right? Walk me through, the sort of pivotal moments in you starting to think about doing your own thing.
The thing that made me really want to make an impact on the disability sector was when I was 21, I was doing aid work in Africa with my sister, and I had a diving accident in Tanzania in an island called Zanzibar, and it was one of the rarest diving accidents in the world. There's only about 80 or 100 cases known of this particular type of bends. So bends is usually like nitrogen bubbles that usually pop out at like a joint or something like that. But mine actually caused a brain embolism for me. So I was in Tanzania, I was stroking out. I was about 23 hours into this stroke, and I'm thinking, like I'm trying to put a key in a keyhole and the keyhole's changing shape. And I'm like, oh, that's, kind of weird. And that's a bit annoying. I was actually thinking more so. It wasn't alarming. I went back to the table and I like complained about it. Like it was like an irritation that morning. Like I hate that keyhole. Like so typical.
You didn't. So this is 24 hours later. You didn't realize.
I didn't realize.
Oh, wow.
I just had assumed that the keyhole does that and changes shape.
Tanzania.
Yeah, in Tanzania, right. But the person I was having breakfast with, and I was at this cheap resort, like such a cheap resort that they sold on the egg yolks to the better resorts. So all you got was the egg white for breakfast.
Okay.
So I was at this cheap resort and the person I was talking to happened to be a dive master. So I was really lucky. And then she was like, I think you should go speak to that lady over there. And so I went and spoke to this lady, and this lady happened to be one of two people on the island that was trained in checking for the exact injury that I was having at the time. So her best friend was like a diving doctor from Europe who happened to be traveling on the island. And she was like, yep, you need treatment. Sit down. She rang him. He's like, yeah, I'm here. He's like, they have a chamber for this, but it was meant to be shut down 2 years ago, but things happen very slowly in Tanzania. So let me check. The chamber was open.
So a chamber is
a hyperbaric chamber.
Okay.
So when you're stroking like that, you can't fly anywhere because if you do, it's extremely likely that it would kill you from the air pressure changing. So you can only drive to wherever you're going, and there's only 2 hyperbaric chambers in Africa, in the continent of Africa. So it was either going to be like 20 minutes away or it was going to be like 4 or 5 countries away. So I was really lucky. I got to this chamber. I had the cheapest travel insurance and it happened to have unlimited cover for diving accidents because nobody gets these diving accidents. And yeah, so I spent 7 days inside this tank, breathing pure oxygen. They redid basically the dive and the pressures and stuff to try and get this nitrogen out of my brain. But during that time, I couldn't see. I lost about 90% of my...
Did it progressively get worse?
It got really bad immediately. So about an hour after I spoke to that woman, I lost my vision, my ability to speak. I lost my ability to walk. And it got to the point where the doctor actually was asking my sister, was he intellectually disabled when he got here? And I could hear the conversations while in the tank that, usually we see progress in 3 hours. He's been in there for 6 days. We haven't had any progress. There's only like a 1 or 2% chance that anything's going to happen from here. So that day I went into the chamber, crawled into the chamber.
So did you remember hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I crawled into the chamber and then something worked in that treatment and I was able to walk back out again. Which was it was just such an incredible moment for me. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. I was crying and I was just, I could start seeing again. I could start walking again. I could remember words again.
What was you, so in those first 6 days, were you understand? Did your brain understand what was going?
It could, and it knew that it knew all the vocab. It just was like it was inaccessible. It was just like, when you've got something on the tip of the tongue and you know it, but you can't access it. So it was that, and I was having about 200 to 300 seizures a day while I was in there. So I suppose the moral of that is that not only was that the first time I experienced my body betraying myself and the disempowerment of physical disability, I also experienced people stopped asking me about what was the next steps and things like that. My insurance company refused to talk to me directly and would only let my sister make decisions about my medical care. The doctor stopped asking me directly and just kind of asked me to relax and be quiet. So it's interesting because it's something I see that happens for people with disabilities all the time. Mm-hmm. People have conversations about them in front of them. People ask their mum what they like to do or their sister or something like that. And it's an experience that, like, unless you've been in that sort of situation, you can't truly appreciate how frustrating and disempowering that is to not have a voice layered upon your disability. So that's what sparked my passion to get into the disability field and help people, especially people being restrained, who are disempowered, who, for whatever reason, they're spilling over. They're so frustrated by something that they're starting to hurt themselves or other people, and find a way to give those people a voice back to hear, what are you trying to communicate by this behavior? What do you need structurally in your life to actually be able to make choices? So just because you might speak almost a different language to us in the way that you decide things or you process things doesn't mean that you just have to live in a neurotypical world. We can adjust things in your own home to make it easy for you to make those choices.
In that moment as well, was there, like, you hear people, like, you've had a near death, you've had as close to a near death experience that you can have. Was it that, like, what, like, from, is it like, I don't want to let this, life's precious, I've got one, chance at this, like, how did it change how you saw life as well?
It definitely made me move faster than other people. Especially like with the company, once I decided to start the company, it's like an hour later I'm starting the company, and it's, I'm working on the policies and procedures and applying, and 2 days later the full application's in. So it made me move faster, but it also made me realize that I don't want to waste my life. I want to live as if I died tomorrow, would I be happy with how I lived my life? What was the impact? What kind of legacy did I leave behind? So that's like a dual-edged sword. It's kind of like, life shouldn't be that level of high tier stress the entire time where you're going, a party's going, I might die tomorrow. It should be a bit more relaxing than that. But at the same time, it definitely lets you check yourself quite often and make sure that you're on the right path, and you're supporting your staff and you're supporting your customers, and you're making a difference.
It's, I can't imagine, there would be, like you said, sort of two sides to it, right? Like, it's like, I need to enjoy every moment, but then I'm here for a short period of time and I want to achieve all of these sort of things.
Yes.
And trying to find the balance between those two things. So with, so the area of work that you were in prior to going straight out into being self-employed, was it the exact same? Because there's like 100 different services, right? Was it exactly in this high risk behavioural? Yeah.
So my placements were originally in case management of people that were released from prison. So I got used to working with kind of extremely complex behaviours quite early on. But as soon as NDIS rolled out, I changed from case management into behavior support. So I was there part of, like, NDIS was kind of working it out at the start because the field almost didn't exist. It had a few small agencies doing it and about a team of 15, 20 people for the state. Whereas like today there'd be tens of thousands of behavior support specialists.
Okay. And like, given that even, like 5-6 years ago, right? You would have had thousands upon thousands of people in this role. You're one of few that's like, I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah. I tried it out in a different company. I won't say the name, but I tried out working there as a team leader in behavior support. And I knew within a week that this is not what I wanted to do. It wasn't aligned with my ethics. It wasn't aligned with my mission. It was a lot of copy pasting of other people's reports, putting their name on it so that they would avoid administrative things such as like restrictive practice reportings and things like that. It's a bit complicated, but basically an active report has to exist for you not to have to be saying was an emergency use. That's why I used it unauthorized. So I ended up working there for a full 5 weeks. And then I sat down with my sister and I said, I was thinking of starting a company.
God bless her. She's been through a bit, your sister.
Oh my God, she has. Poor thing. I sat down with her. We opened up a nice bottle of Chardonnay, and she like, for good or bad, basically locked me in the room and said, "You're not leaving. We're drinking wine until you speak the words, 'I'm starting my own company.' Like, you're going to do this better. You know you can do this."
Did she have more belief than you?
I knew what I wanted to do with my life. She believed in what I could do more than me. So, and yeah, she knew once I'd made the decision, I would do it. It's just, I was too scared to say it. So I was like, "Oh, but there's so many things." It's like, "You're not leaving this room until you say it." So
it's interesting. Like, a lot of the time people are surrounded by, friends and family that are like encouraging them to play it safe. It's like, you've got a good job, employed, team leader, management, and it's few and far between where you've got those right people in your corner that are saying.
And I did have a good job. The place that I felt really uncomfortable working was paying me over $120K a year. Yeah. That's a comfortable life if I could just suck it up. But I don't know. I don't want to work in a place that I feel ick. So
see, at that point though, right, you knew absolutely nothing about business.
I knew nothing.
Nothing. So we're talking,
Never even watched a 5-minute business video. I literally rang my accountant. She had to explain the concept of GST, what an ABN was.
So it was like, I can see that there's something to be solved here, a problem in how service is being offered. I want to do it differently. Yeah. And it was just that idea.
Yeah, it was that idea, and it was like, because I'm a social worker. Social worker is all about empowerment and being on a peer level with people. So it's not very hierarchical. Even like the social workers doing therapy with people, there's like heaps of training in how to reorganize the power in the room so that the client feels like on an equal playing field with you. So the idea was kind of almost an experiment. It was instead of building a company that had the normal tiers like managers, HR, CEOs and all that sort of stuff, I created a peer-to-peer ecosystem network. So for about 3 years, there literally wasn't any management except me in the company. So anybody who had the right answer was the exact right person to provide that answer. People went to their peers who were capable, experienced people who specialized in different areas for clinical advice. People would do like these consults with each other. They'd present to each other on topics that they felt really passionate about or, that they practiced for a long time in. So the experiment was, can we operate mostly with experienced people helping other people that are experienced, orientate them to what we do in this field?
So they're a little bit more, not autonomous, like self-employed to a certain extent under...
All of them have ABNs or ACNs, so they're all technically contractors. Yep. So they do have that autonomy over their clinical input, their interventions, their week. Some people like to work 10 hours a week. Some like to work 40 hours a week. The way that I set it up, though, one thing I hated in the sector was people would get employed and almost tricked because they would get employed and they'd see which one has the highest number. And then they'd arrive and they'd say, "Oh, we would like you to do 6 or 7 billable hours a day." And for therapy or behavior support, it's a pretty intense field. So like nobody really wants to be the 7th customer in a day that you're getting seen, the last dribbles of brain power that's left when you see that person. And also that's pretty intense on the practitioner themselves.
And they've got no option.
They've got no option and that's their KPI. And it's not like just like on a good day you could do this. It's like that's your regular KPI. So basically I set it up to the pushback of a few accountants so that they could earn a really decent wage doing 3 or 4 billable hours a day. If they wanted to earn bank, they could do more. If they didn't, they don't have to. So
it's amazing because it opens up the candidate pool to everyone that's looking for full-time flexibility, casual.
Yeah.
So your sister says, go and do this.
Yep.
Right. You're like, okay, call the accountant. How do I do this?
Yep.
You leave the job.
Yep.
Right. Now you don't have a safety net like most people.
At all. Yeah. And it's the naivety about business that helped me, to be honest. I didn't realize how complicated business was. I didn't realize when I was starting how many businesses fail in their first year.
So did you have a runway? Like how quickly did this have to work?
It had to work straight away because I didn't have any savings.
And were you scared? Like was that, something
No, I wasn't scared. I was more so excited and I don't know, like when you come up against problems, you just like think through them. As long as you know where you're going, you're just like, I don't know, I'll just try this or like I got this. But it's like as you go along in business, you realize how many things you didn't know about. Like for example, no one told me about payroll tax, and it's like thank God that I was financially conservative when I set up the business because it's like you don't pay payroll tax until you get to a certain amount of staff or like paying people, and then suddenly you pay tax because you pay people so much money, and the more money you pay them, the more tax you have to get. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the government's like, who can we tax? Let's tax those ones that are like supporting more people.
Yeah, right. And it took me ages to get my head around. I was like, so if I paid them less, I wouldn't have to pay this tax, but only because I'm paying them a good amount, it has this tax kicked in right now. So that one hit me for 6. Learning about a run, like that you need like at least 3 months of funds in the bank in case you don't get paid. That was a really lucky thing to learn about earlier on in my career because
I think that applies to everything. I know you're relying on certain payments from providers, but yeah, I think that's always important to factor in.
NDIS is one of the best opportunities, especially if you're passionate, you know why you're there, you can hold your resolve. It is an extremely complicated, litigious, sometimes bureaucratic system to go through, and it can be really hard. So, for example, NDIS changed payment systems. So they'd always done it via this certain method, this portal. They invented a different portal, which is fine. They were like, this is the new portal, but they didn't tell providers how to get paid in the new portal. So we went 3 months without getting a single payment under the new payment system. $0. We'd done all the work, we'd submitted it. It just 100% of it got rejected. And we're looking and looking, we're like, did they not create like a 1-pager or like a info video or something? Like it's a pretty crucial part of business,
Yeah.
This is how you get paid now. Now that we changed the system. But they didn't. And well, as far as I could see, they didn't. And how we ended up having to solve it is we ended up talking to about 4 or 5 other organizations who were also like, oh my God, like we're going to crumble for no other reason than we don't know how to use this new system and we can't work it out.
Was there a number to call or not?
That the number to call is only for generalist people, so that you can't call anybody that's involved in building the new system.
Yeah.
So And it turned out to be this like thing that they had, which was that the participant or the representative has to call up a certain number and endorse your exact company. So they need to know your ABN and things like that. So like all 5 of us companies like found this out roughly the same time and we're like fixing it. But still, even then, like we found that out at 3 months and then we still had to wait for all, we've got 1,200 participants. So we still had to wait for all of them to do this process. So some of them were another 2 months before we got paid. Some were 1 month. So like...
Have a runway.
Oh my God. Have a run. Because we would have just gone under like a technicality,
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like I think, that holding cash, and being conservative can be a huge blessing. Because like that, and it happens in, like I was saying with every industry. You know what I mean? Like you think, I've had it happen before with people, you assume that, an invoice is coming, you've done the services and businesses go under and things happen. So you just can't rely on it. Like what, when you, like, was it pretty quick when you started to, find your feet initial runs on the board? So like, give me an idea of that first week, right? You may have a website at this point, maybe. The phone doesn't ring, right? When you put you do a Google listing or put a website up, right? So like, do you remember the first moment, the first client, you're like, actually, I have a business now.
The first client I ever had, we still have that client. It was actually a family that had 3 kids with autism. It was great because I already knew what I was doing. I had all this knowledge. I'd studied with a company in the US, which is renowned for being like one of the top behavioral institutes in the world. And I got to have their director coach me, literally like coaching me with my clients. So he would see my thinking on it, my reports, and he would like guide me. So that was an insane opportunity. So I went in there confident, but I also was like nerve-wracked because all of my clients were in one family to start with. Okay. But luckily I already had 5 years of experience with linking with support coordinators and things like that. And I had a lot of people that knew who I was in the sector. So that was a real blessing because even people that I didn't think I had that relationship with reached out to me and said like, I've heard you've started a company. Can we refer some clients to you? And
so it was your track record that helped you like get
absolutely
that start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even spend $1 on marketing until about 3 years into the company.
Mm-hmm. Well, so walk me through it, right? Because it's like part of this is people also understanding that, successful business owners are normal people that have no fucking idea sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So like, you can perceive it very easily as, someone who has hundreds of staff members as, super sophisticated, someone who has it all together that's understood the process, right? Help me understand it, like what it looked like at the start, how you started to add some levels of sophistication in, like when did you start? Like what were some of the initial challenges, say year one? Because I think year one you added how many staff in the first year? 10.
Some of the initial challenges were things like the HR compliance parts. So you've got to manage like about 15 different things for the NDIS, like licenses, working with children's checks, NDIS.
So this is for checks. Like onboarding new staff?
You've got to manage them live. So it's like you can have them onboarding, but you've got to know what the expiration dates of all of those things are and keep on top of them. And so that's somewhat doable with 10 people. But once you get like my second audit, we were going in with an Excel spreadsheet with like 35 staff and it was chaos. It was calling people 2 nights before because we realized theirs had expired technically and where is it and have they got it? And so like not not investing in technology early was a mistake. I think that if I could go back, I would tell myself, don't cheap out, like get the technology. Okay. It's necessary.
So was there a CRM or system at the start that you were operating with that you didn't have, or?
HR software I didn't have. I was really lucky that one of my good friends at the time had started her own NDIS business 3 years earlier. And so she sat me down and went through the basics. She's like, this is the CRM you're going to use. She even provided like the contract for me to use for contractors that I'm going to use. She provided me my accounting team and invoicing team. And she's like, they're really reliable. Go with these people. So that was just insanely helpful to have someone who knows what they're talking about set up like a few things for me. So NDIS has an expectation as well that the bigger you grow, the more sophisticated your systems have to be. So you literally can't pass an audit, say 3 years later down the track, or even a midterm audit 18 months down the track, if you haven't got more sophisticated than when they met you last time. Okay.
Is there, when you say that, like, is there certain key things they say when like you need a level of sophistication?
There's hundreds.
Was there a subjective, or it's like you need to have these things?
No, there is about 1,000 checkpoints that they can check for in an audit, but there's a lot of modules that you got to do. So they check for a lot of things. So they check like your governance, they check every contingency plan to make sure things are still going for the client. You know, like what if a worker dies? How do you keep it going? What if they get sick? What happens in pandemics? What happens if there's fire blocking you off from getting to a client? Like you've got to think of every possible scenario. But they also expect that the quality of everything goes up each time. So it's like, it might be good enough to provide people just a service agreement that they sign once at the start when you're starting a company. But as you get more sophisticated, you need to have like a full welcome pack that breaks it down in pitches and stuff like that. That's like, these are the people you would go to complain about us. They'll support you to know your rights. They'll support you to even raise a complaint yourself, or we can get involved legally and that sort of thing. So the sophistication in helping participants always be empowered is basically what they're checking. Empowered, safeguarded, and getting a high quality service. Mm-hmm. And that you can't just wing it either. So you can't just show them things and be like, yeah, it's great. They'll actually call the participants and check with them. So I think they check around 10% of your participants. They give them a call, interview them, and be like, what is it like? What needs to improve? They'll interview your staff at every level and examine them on what their knowledge is about policies, how much they get about their job.
Yeah. So that part there, right? Like you at the start, you got your friend that you go to, and you're like, how do I do this? Right. The size you're at now.
Yeah,
people are probably trying to come to you to ask you questions.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
Where do you go for support, like in terms of everything, guidance and how to structure things and to build the like even the new technology and systems and stuff? Like, do you have?
Yeah, so I always in business believe that you give before you receive. Mm-hmm. So there's probably 6 or 7 behavior support agencies that have come to me in the past to ask me questions about things. How are you doing this? How are you getting past this, government technical thing that is like blocking they haven't understood our role and they've rolled this thing out really quickly, and like, what have you done to achieve compliance with it or something like that? But all of those people have been really happy to help me back again. Mm-hmm. So that's one layer that has been really helpful. I joined a club that you're in, actually, Club United Business, which is fantastic because it's accomplished people who have no skin in the game in the sense of selling you anything. So it's like when you present a problem or a goal that you're trying to get to, and they will challenge you. They will
just look at it from a different lens, right?
They will, and you won't even just get one perspective. Or when you do get one perspective, you know, oh my God, that's the right thing, because you've got like 11 business owners who are like, yes,
sometimes yelling at you.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong. Well, this is how to do it. But it's I find those sort of sessions almost like supercharge the brain, because it's like, go in with it on the precipice of my mind, and I get to hear all these perspectives. I like write it down.
Yeah. Interesting. And it's funny because like at the end of the day, business is all the same thing. So these different perspectives, you can apply almost all of it to your own business.
Yeah, quite a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, marketing is definitely different, but apart from that, structuring a company, do I need to have a board? How do I go about technology? Do I use something off the shelf, or do I get custom technology or that sort of thing? It's been so helpful, because even with that, I've had people say, this is the pros, this is the cons. And even the people that fully believed, no, you never build your own technology, had such interesting points to consider. And then it was like, well, if I want to go against that, I have to have a better reason than what they presented to me, which was I ended up going with the minority that said, do build your own custom tech, which was that our field is so specialized and unique that for me, the risk of giving someone the wrong practitioner is higher than, good enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be a perfect match, but I would prefer, imagine if, you had a kid and they kept not attending school, right? It would be a screw up for me if I sent a prac out to you and I didn't realize that I had a teacher, like an ex-teacher that was just in your area at the same time, who had capacity that I didn't know about, and I've given you somebody else, right? I could have super speeded and supercharged the level of advice you had got by getting a teacher merged with positive behavior support thinking and getting both worlds instantly, by giving you the right person. So this tech... It's frustrating to build technology, and it's ever expanding the cost.
So you've never, again, right? Normal guy.
Never done it. Yeah.
Like, what has that been like? Is it just?
It's exciting, to be honest. It's exciting and distressing at the same time. So it's like the budget for the tech was $100,000, and it was meant to go for 2 months. But every time we would get to a point, and it's like, I don't want people to have to wait for somebody to send them a service agreement. I want the service agreement to end up in their inbox within 1 second. And so I just say that and I think, yeah, okay, build it. And they come back and they're like, got about 15 questions that I have to answer. And then each of those questions like, yeah, but what happens in this scenario? And it's like, oh my God. So it's like
so many variables.
There's so many variables. Yeah. But I'm really lucky. I reckon maybe 50, 60 of my staff members have contributed to the tech. And then there's probably a key group of about 10 people that work on it 3, 4, 5 days a week, come together, brainstorm, think about it. And then we've got a development team, of course.
Do you, like when you say these things out loud, right? You said earlier, like you're having conversations around, do I need a board?
Yeah.
Building out, your own bespoke technology that, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, that it's all you self-funded.
Yeah.
When you say it out loud, how does it hit home? How does it feel? Do you believe it? Like, would you have believed it if you told yourself this?
No way. It's very strange. I always knew that I would dedicate my life to helping people, but it was more so a vision of I'm in some war zone and handing out food or something like that. It wasn't running a really successful company. So, yeah, as I said, I've never even done 1 minute of business courses before I went into it. Didn't understand business, didn't get it. it. A lot of people told me I was doing it wrong, that I need hierarchies and structures and things like that to start with.
Was that the biggest thing that you think enabled the growth and the scale? That it was the structure was different? Like
Absolutely. I think so.
So if you did a normal like structure, right, where you
Yep.
just employed, like I want to understand, was that sort of the key factor, you think?
I've never once had to have a conversation with somebody about billable hours. And the only time I would ever speak to somebody about it is if they promised a client that they would deliver, say, 60 hours and they've only delivered like 5. And I'd say, like, what happened there? You know, that's your commitment to the client.
Is it because of the ownership? People are taking ownership.
Yeah.
Like because it's their own business essentially.
It's their own income that they have authority over. So if they don't work any hours, they don't make any money. If they work heaps of hours, they make heaps of money. But the other variable is that good people, like good workers, don't really ever apply to work for a company. Good workers already know that they're going to get a job and approach a company. So they come to you and they choose you. They choose the culture that you've built. They choose the level of autonomy, safety. They want to be on a journey with you and these peers. So I think it's been one of the refreshing things for them to walk into is that they walk in and they don't feel disempowered. They might feel scared and they might have imposter syndrome for a little bit, but they don't feel disempowered. They walk in, they know what everyone's specialization in the company is that they can speak to. They go through our own learning and management system. We've got like 6 layers of supervision and they can hear that other people are having the same concerns as they are and what are other people doing. But then, for example, they're told that they have been chosen specifically for this network because of their skills. So they're just tweaking what they need to do and going through a different lens. So the assumption is competence when they come in. And then competence, put it through this lens, practice it to the degree where they have to present to the entire network of 100 people on something valuable that they know about within 6 to 12 months of then coming on board.
How do you need complete alignment from everyone? Like, do you have you've obviously got your induction and playbooks and things like that, but is there like a certain methodology or approach, or you just trust that these people know their industry and that they're the best of the best?
So positive behavior support is a industry. It's an industry of behaviorism guided by ethical principles and values. So, for example, it doesn't use punishment whatsoever. There's no aversive strategies. There's an emphasis on removing any control that you have over the person. It's more of a motivate instead of dominate perspective. Positive behavior support has specific methodologies to doing it. Mostly it analyzes the environment. So it doesn't put the blame of a behavior on a person. It says, how has the environment not facilitated them to get their message across without this behavior being the most effective way for them to get their message across? How do we get to the point where Jonathan's throwing a chair to say, "You really pissing me off, Jennifer, stop stealing my artwork," or something like that. How do we get to that point? So it looks at the environment. It somewhat looks at skill building for them, coping and tolerance, but basically it creates capable teams around people. So it has a very specific approach that it has to create plans and bring everyone along the journey. But one of the 10 elements of PBS actually prescribes it must actively involve other fields. So it's like you need to find a solve for this situation and empower people and teach them. But whether you bring in a bit of psych into that, a bit of social work into that, a bit of OT into that, is totally up to you. You use the things that you already know and feel confident about, and then use that in addition to pure behaviorism strategies.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's so you giving people like the sort of framework, but then with their own experience, they bring in ways to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. It sounds like for me, like if I'm looking at it and going, like it's basically been the model, right? It's the way that you've set people up, which has, in terms of like, if we look at like a business structure, I guess, right? If people were just standard PAYG, you wouldn't have been able to attract the best of the best.
Yep.
Right? You wouldn't have been able to attract people that come with their own networks.
Yep. And I also wouldn't have been able to let them run their week however they want to run their week.
Yeah.
You know, I hate the idea of going to somebody and say, you didn't do enough billable hours for our company this week. That makes me feel disgusting. Like if you have an off day and you don't feel like you're going to give your best to clients, like don't go see clients that day. You know, if you find that you traveling 5 weeks a year or whatever helps you turn up like present and refreshed and there for your clients, do it. Organize your year however you need to organize it so that you're your best self when you turn up.
Yeah, incredible. And it's like, it's funny because it was, a lot of people were telling you not to set up the business this way. And that's what's basically enabled.
Yeah. My accountant sat me down. They said, David, do you need to be paying these people this much money?
Yeah.
And I said, like, well, why not? Why wouldn't we be paying them this much money if we can afford it?
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, there are people that pay more now. So there's people that come in and even pay more than we do because we do spend so much on reinvesting in innovation, in making sure we've got really good structures in place, like this and technology, that sort of thing. We also have like a big charity arm. But the thing is that it initially scared me because people would say things like, we're going to give – our payment system is that you keep 20% you keep everything and we take 20%. And because I've been in the industry so long, I've seen these companies come and I've never heard of them again. Like 6 months later, they've all folded.
Yeah, not sustainable.
Because like I just can't wrap my head around it. So like GST is 10%, Super's 11%, payroll tax is about 5.5% in some states. So what's that? Like 26.5%. And then work covers like 3%. It's 29.5%. It's like, well, I don't understand. Like at what point are they crumbling? Let alone any like staff and support and structure and mission to them. So I just decided, you know what? They get paid really well. And the happiness of my staff has never dipped below an 8 out of 10 in any happiness surveys that we do. And I think as long as we're on a mission together, I just need to cut out the noise of some of these other companies that come and go like, a flash, because I know my staff know where they're going and I know they're pumped and I know they're excited. So
how do you now, and like just sort of to wrap things up, right? Like I'm guessing you've hit a lot of the milestones and goals that you like beyond what you ever thought was going to be possible setting up your own business, right? Like for you personally, like how do you measure success, right? Because clients, money, revenue, it's infinite, right? Like you can keep growing, you can, so like how do you,
success is 100% the impact we make on other people. So it's not what we do, it's what happens when we do what we do. So the best moments in my life, in my career, are when I hear success stories from my staff, when they've gone in, someone's on all these sedatives against their will, someone's being restrained, they're really badly hurting other people, the support staff's about to break down and they say like, today's the day that they've got no chemical restraint left on them. This is them with their new friend. This is them enjoying their life. I couldn't care less if the business ended up one day making $0 profit. If we were still hitting those level of outcomes, that to me is everything.
Yeah, I love that. Like I can see that that's your purpose. Like every time we talk about it, you light up. I mean, one thing that's so different about you, right? I think, obviously difficult upbringing, didn't have anything when you grew up, right? Like now you could have a lot of things.
Yeah, it's true.
But it doesn't seem like, you get carried away with, a lavish lifestyle and things like that. Like how do you, I see that a lot.
It doesn't mean much to me. It's, I mean, I love my wine. I'll spend more on a nice bottle of wine than I will on nice clothes. But it doesn't, like Prada, Gucci, all that sort of stuff doesn't mean anything to me. If you grow up in extreme poverty and homelessness and that sort of thing, those sort of things are very fickle, and they're just, you don't get a very deep feeling about them. Whereas like, I got to go when I was last traveling into Thailand into a dog rescue, and the dog rescue was being shut down, and they had 300 dogs, and the owner said, like, the thing is that it's 12 hours from here to the next place that we've got to drive them, and I can only take 8 to 10 dogs in the car at a time.
This is your soft spot. So
my God. And she's like, we've only got like one staff member and one volunteer as well. So there's like maximum we can be doing 20 at once. And she's like, we don't have enough money for food and staff and to transport them. So I have to decide either, do I just leave some of them here? Do they go hungry? She's like, I had to leave them for 4 days without food last week. Or like, what do I do? Like, what do I do right now? I'm getting shut down. It was like some noise complaint because, of course, 300 rescue dogs, the barking level would be Bark City. But like to go in there and to say like, just don't worry about it. And here is enough money for you to have staff here for the entire month coming up, enough food for the dogs for the next month coming up, and you take them, like it's going to be hard work still, but none of those dogs are going to die just because you're transporting them. And I mean, imagine the anxiety that she's going through on that long ass trip each time, thinking about her poor puppy dogs. That sort of stuff excites me. Like that. Oh.
How many people know that you've done that?
My staff do, and I talk about it with my staff because I want to.
You don't do it for you're not doing it for recognition of like, look what because a lot of people will be like, look what I did.
Yeah, no, definitely not. No, I want to inspire them to do good.
Yeah.
So I want them. In social psychology, there's a saying that at all times you're influencing at least 7 people with what you're doing. And I want it to ripple out, and I want people to get that it feels just as good for you as it does for other people. Like it's not necessarily a completely altruistic thing to do, to give or to, save dogs or to build orphanages or things like that, because you feel great afterwards. So even like in my company, every single person has $200 a year that they get to just see a moment where they want to step in, like an old lady who is putting groceries back because she can't afford it, or like a mate's going through domestic violence and they don't have enough money for the rent or food or things like that. They get to choose a moment in the year where they just touch somebody's life and will pay for it. And it's like the reason it's in a group and it's like still private, but they're all like this engine room of good. Like it's so beautiful. It's like sometimes there's 2 or 3 posts a week of like, I help this dog shelter, I help this person that needs it. And it's like, if you're having a crappy week and you see that and you read these beautiful stories, it's just, it's just,
I love it.
Everything.
And I can see why, you've achieved the success you have, because you are so passionate about what you do, and then it's created this following and group of people that believe what you believe.
Yeah. And it's them. It's not really me. I could step away from the business and it would work perfectly fine.
I think you've instilled like the why in terms of why we exist. And then you've got 100 people that believe what you believe, that, then creates.
Yeah, and been very selective about who we've hired.
Yeah.
Like it's really been mission-orientated people that can pitch to me that they're here for the right reasons. Has been the hiring, and then it's so much better to hire somebody who's passionate and can learn skills than necessarily has 100% of the skills to start with.
I love it. What would your, final words of parting wisdom to, people that are, early stages of business or looking to go out on their own?
Have a belief in what you want to do, and don't be afraid to ask people for support and guidance and brainstorm things with people. People generally want to see you succeed. They're usually not there to rip you down. And if you get stuck, all you need to do is find people who know what they're talking about, and you'll be able to get through it.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's really important. I could talk for another hour, but I'm conscious that we keep these to an hour.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you for coming on. I wanted to thank you for being so vulnerable as well. And yeah, I think, I think people will obviously hear this. But for me, if I'm looking for a takeout, right, it's again, it comes back to the fact that it's a normal person. You know what I mean? That, has done some incredible things, but, you're passionate about what you do, and that's sometimes the most important part about it all.
I think we're all perfectly imperfect. We're all wounded healers trying to do the best that we can in life. And as long as most of what you do is good and helps other people and is on the right path, then you've got to be happy and you've got to love yourself to be able to love others.
It's a good way to sign off. Pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. See ya.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to The Leap. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow, or even better, share it with someone who you think will get value out of it. Big thanks to our main sponsor, Ethos 360 Recruitment. It was actually just us sponsoring ourselves.
This podcast has been produced by The Content Engine.